I'm Tina Oelke and your instructor for PSYC263. Today we're going to discuss Chapter 5 of Lifespan Development. And it's titled, What Did You Say? Language Development in Infancy. Before they have recognized words, babies are communicating with smiles, crying, laughing, facial expressions, and the sounds of pleasure and pain. However, when they say that first word, they cross the line of extreme importance. Today we're going to look at how language develops. We've discovered through cases such as Victor and Jeannie that children who are raised in isolation and who have never developed normal language patterns are unable to do so later. This raises questions if language is biological and/or environmental. Language is defined as a form of communication, whether it is spoken, written, or signed, and that is based on a system of symbols. Infinite generativity is the ability to produce an endless number of meaningful sentences using a finite set of words and rules. Language develops in infants throughout the world using a similar path and sequence. The recognized similar language and sounds. With age, infants get better at perceiving the sounds in their own language and worse at distinguishing sounds in other languages. From birth to 6 months of age, children are thought to be citizens of the world in that they don't distinguish between different languages. From 6 months on for vowels and 10 months for consonants, they start to lose their sensitivity for sounds that aren't a part of their own language or the one that they usually hear. They also begin to detect boundaries between words. This occurs around 8 months of age. If you read an infant a story and then 2 weeks later 2 sets of lists, one with a set of new words and one with a set of words from the story, the baby will listen more attentively to the words from the list of words from the story. Babbling and other vocalizations develop first. It starts with crying from birth and then progresses to cooing from ages 2 to 4 months and then babbling from 6 to 10 months. Babbling, for example, dada, dada, is often mistaken for a first word. This is not the case though. It does not hold real meaning, but it does become more word-like. Gestures develop by about 8 to 12 months. Examples include pointing and waving bye-bye. These usually appear before the infant has 25 words and disappears when they learn and can say the word for the idea that they're gesturing. The first words develop on average between 10 to 15 months. Children usually understand their first words earlier than they speak them. On average, a child understands about 50 words at age 13 months, but can't speak 50 words until 18 months. By 18 months, 3 out of 4 children can understand 150 words and say 50 of them. You can see the vocabulary spurt in this chart. And that usually begins at 18 months of age. At this time, 2 concepts occur: overextension and underextension. Overextension is when infants apply a word to objects that are inappropriate for a word's meaning. For example, when they say dada for their father, but also any man. Underextension is when they apply a word too narrowly. For example, when they call their 5-year-old neighbor boy, but not a male infant or a 9-year-old male. 2-word utterances usually begin around 18 to 24 months. For example, big doggy and where dada. Telegraphic speech will also occur. This is the use of short and precise words without grammatical markers. For example, mommy give for mommy give me some ice cream. This chart lays out all of the language milestones in infancy. There are many biological influences for language development. Evolution of the nervous system and vocal apparatus has changed and developed. Similarities in language development across the world suggest a biological basis, and particular brain regions are used for language, in that language is housed in the left hemisphere of the brain. Language areas in the cerebral cortex developed as children. They acquire the language. However, if the left hemisphere is damaged in the first years, then other parts will take over. 2 particular areas of the brain produces words: Broca's area, which houses language production, and Wernicke's area, which houses language comprehension. This diagram shows where Wernicke's and Broca's areas are located in the brain. Is linguistic ability learned or innate? Noam Chomsky believes it is innate, and he came up with what's called language acquisition device, or LAD. It's a theory that a biological endowment enables children to detect certain features and rules of the language. He believes that there is an innate system in us that contains a universal grammar or set of rules common to all language. Behaviorists, on the other hand, believe that it is learned. They claim that language is a complex learned skill acquired through responses and reinforcements. For example, when the parrot coaches the child to say, "I want a cookie," and the child responds with "cookie," we praise them and give them a cookie. The interaction view believes that children learn language in specific contexts, that children's vocabulary is linked to family socioeconomic status and the type of talk parents direct toward their children. So how can we help babies' language develop? Child-directed speech is one way. This is language spoken in a higher pitch than normal with simple words and sentences. Most adults already do this naturally. Some researchers say that in more adult-like speech is best. However, most researchers do agree that CDS helps infants learn their native language faster. There are 3 strategies to enhance a child's acquisition of language. The first is recasting, which is rephrasing what the child has said. For example, the child says, "Doggy bark." You say, "When was the dog barking?" The second is expanding state, which is repeating what the child has said, but in correct structure. For example, the child says, "Doggy eat." You say, "Yes, the dog is eating." And the last is labeling, which is identifying the names of objects. For example, you ask the child to name objects, or play the name game. This concludes what we will be covering in our PowerPoint mini lesson. The reflective log is to ask you to suggest ideas for future research designed to advance knowledge on the concepts in the chapter, or to apply the material you learned in the chapter to a current news issue or to experiences in your own life. I suggest that you not only consider the concepts that you heard on this presentation, but also what you've learned in the rest of the chapter. Some interesting things to reflect on would be, how do you feel about language development? Is it innate or learned, or a combination? Perhaps you'd like to learn more about Jeannie. Google her and learn more about her progress. Maybe you'd like to comment on IQ testing and predicting intelligence. Last, what have you seen in the news recently that you'd like to comment on? There are a lot of ideas out there from Chapter 5, and I hope that you have fun looking at them. I can't wait to read your logs.